So Caesar looked at the heretic, that Epicurus, and said, "Why'd you go like this to the rabbi?" He said, "Because I wanted to tell him that God's not looking at them. God turned his head away from them. They're in Galus." And so he said, "And so why did the rabbi go like this?" And he said, "I don't know. I didn't understand." And so Caesar said, "If you don't have the seichel, if you're not smart enough to interpret signs and for the presence of the king, you shouldn't be making them. And therefore it's an act of treason, and they ordered him to be executed." So the Baal Shem Tov asks about this Gemara. He says, first of all, why couldn't they just talk? Why do they have to have this whole sign language? And second of all, why is the Gemara telling us this story? And so the Baal Shem Tov says there in Kesser Shem Tov that it's a lesson. The Gemara is telling us a story that in front of the king, they don't always talk. In the front of the king, by the Eibishter, the king of the world, many things only come in the form of signs, in the world of Machshava. And you have to use your brains, you have to pay attention to figure out what the signs mean. You don't get direct messages exactly. Signs happen around you, and you're in front of the king, you have to pay attention, what are the signs? And the Rabbi Shalom says, that's a baskel sometime. Some people don't get a voice, there's no audio, there's no, like in front of the king. What they get is things are happening, and if they pay attention to the signs, they will get a message. For example, when tragedies are happening in the world, when catastrophes are happening, the Baal Shem Tov said a person who's smart would see the signs to know he has to awaken in his awe of Hashem. And when great things are happening around him, he would realize the signs and know that he has to awaken in his love for Hashem. So these are this is a siyum milamaylef. The signs are showing you things to do. It's a type of baskel. There are signs in your life. There are moments that happen. It's also a help. But this is not the same type of help when you're in Shul on Yom Kippur. This is a background help, and the struggle you overcome at that moment could really be accredited to you. It's your Yigiyah. Und das ist der Tam, was nistalkem min Shechina. And that's why, because of the advantage, because that a person has to be able to do it on his own, that's the real Zachu. This is why the Shechina left Yaakov Avinu. When if Yaakov would reveal the end of times, if he would give them this tremendous secret, he would let them know that they could do something to bring Mashiach. And then, 3,500 years ago, then everything they did to increase in their avodas Hashem because of what Yaakov revealed to, in order to make sure they even merit even more, then all of this, it wouldn't be nitgeven kav shaloi zeir noiftu. It wouldn't be their own accomplishment. It'd be superimposed. It'd be artificial. It was Yaakov's inspiration. They didn't really do it. They didn't really become better because they felt it was important to be in a stronger relationship with Hashem. They didn't become stronger in their ability to overcome struggles. They were inspired. In their effort would have been influenced by divine help. Their Gilead Ketz, the Ribers nistalkem min Shechina, and therefore the Shechina left Yaakov at that time. Bichdei as the avoide von Idem soll sein a matze von Silik Shechina und Helem Ketz ubemela zi bekoyach atzmam. In order that the Jewish accomplishment to bring Mashiach should be in a manner when the Shechina is not present, there should be a Helem, a concealment of when Mashiach is going to come, because that would create the stage that the Jewish people could accomplish this through their own effort, their own initiative. Yaakov had gewollt, so what did Yaakov want? If this is why Mashiach should come, what did Yaakov want? Because Yaakov's a good father. Yaakov had gewollt, dass man soll was schneller reisen than Galus. Yaakov wanted to just get us out of here quickly. The sooner the better. I don't need the depth and the greatest accomplishment, the shleimus and avodas adam, human perfection. Look how long it's taking. Yaakov foresaw what human perfection is going to take. He said, I don't need human spiritual perfection. Let them get out of Galus. As with Efsher Felon and Shleimus Avodah, maybe something will lack in the perfection of their Avodah. Their far aber wird man früher raus von Galus, befreit von Eretz Aretz, und allein der Gula Mitzvah Shleima, but as long as they could leave Galus quicker and go to the Gula Mitzvah Shleima, I'm happy. V'yesh Shleima, as this is the Dir Kalashin, and one may say that this is the emphasis, Bikish Yaakov Legalas Eketz. That Yaakov requested you could teach Bikish. Not only that he sought to, that he wanted to, Ratzo Legalas Eketz, but Bikish he requested. Milashim Bakasha. Yaakov hat gebetet beim Eibishtin, as soll sein der Gilead Ketz. Yaakov asked Hashem, please, I know you like when it's done on their own, but please reveal the Ketz, give them this inspiration. Was das wird geben ihnen as siyu abavaydasim. This will give them help. Und versichern as die Geula wird kommen schneller. And this will make sure that Mashiach comes faster. And that was Yaakov's number one priority, get my children out of Galus quick. Hashem, Please give them any type of divine energy, inspiration, even if it's not their own, but make sure this whole thing ends quickly. Der Eibishter hat aber gewollt, but Hashem on the other hand wanted, as the Geula soll sein betachlis hashleimus. Hashem wanted a perfected redemption. Was das ist verbunden damit, was die Avodah von Yidden ist beschleimus, which would have to happen when the Yidden work on their own, when our effort is perfected. When the Rebbe is nostalgic in Shila, and therefore the Shekhinah left Yaakov at that moment, and he couldn't reveal the Ketz, he couldn't give that external inspiration, because by the Shekhinah leaving, was das get an ort for aggressive shleimus and Avodah Kanal. This leaves room for a greater perfection in our own accomplishments. It could be kav shaloi. We could say that we brought about Mashiach. And the Rebbe takes us a step further. Atifere inyan in them. Das, was die Shleimus HaGeula kommt durch them, was die Avodah von Eden, is in a matzah von Silka Shechina, Beil Begis Asma Kanal. The advantage that we achieve through doing it on our own is not just a side-related issue that, you know what, it's good to do it on your own. It's really connected to the objective over here. It's not for a side issue from the Oifen Avodah to the Geula, nor weil Dafken der Avodah Tali Aketz von Azah Geula, Nitzchas in Achra Galas. It's specifically, it's needed to have this type of reward, this type of outcome, a Geula, a redemption that never has an exile after it. You need to have perfection coming from inside the Jewish people. You need to have a grassroots effort, an initiative that comes from inside of, a transformation that happens from inside us, and not just a spiritual inspiration. Why? Because Kedei the Geula zal sein a nitzches, in order for the Geula to be eternal, in order to enter a state of the world, where the Shekhinah is Galui. And when there's a revelation, it's a dir b'tachtonim in a revealed way. But always, it should never change, never fluctuate. On shinuyim, without any fluctuation, darf euch die Avodah von Eden was bringt die Geula. Therefore, the effort on behalf of the Jewish people that bring this era of reality, zayin me'ein zeh, it has to reflect that. And an oifim from loishanisi on shinuyim. It also has to be in a way that it's never changed, that the Jew reaches a level in his avodah, in his relationship, in his fulfilling his duty, that's consistent. Und der Iber, and therefore, shas the avodah verketam mitzadas yumil maila. If a person is motivated by an external inspiration, because he's inspired by the moment or by a person outside of him, unit bigis atzmai, rather than his own internal transformation, demot is nedaki nitzchis in der avodah. Therefore, then there's no eternity, there's no consistency in his avodah. Because when there's suyum il this alam variant, because when his inspiration leaves, when the inspiration is over, can der adam werden nayedet mit der chas v'shalom, the person could lose everything he accomplished. I was learning a similar concept of Chassidus recently with a professor, and he gave an example. He said it's like a diet. The difference when you're on a diet or when you change your diet. And a person who's on a diet, say, I'm on a diet right now, I'm not eating the rugula, I'm not eating the Danish, I'm not drinking the Coke. It means I really want the Coke, but for some reason I made a resolution that I'm on a diet now, right now I'm not doing it. And so I can't because I'm on this diet, I'm on this thing outside of me that I need to watch myself. And every time I see the rugula, I see the bowl of potato chips, I struggle, but oh, I'm on a diet, I'm not going to do it. Versus somebody who changes their diet, somebody who goes through a transformation, somebody who begins to read about something and to exercise slowly with great effort into their own life, they change their eating habits, they change the way they look at food, they change their whole perspective of what they eat, and now it's no longer a struggle. The very thing, the very Coke they used to see in the fridge in the store, they used to say, oh, I can't have that, I'm on a diet, or their wife was nagging, oh, you can't have that, now you're on a diet. They don't even want to look at it. They look at that body and say, oh, I would never drink something like that. They're never even tempted by something like this. And this is the difference when it's a siyum ilmaya, when there's an external motivation, or when there's an internal transformation. If a yid is just inspired because Yaakov Avinu said he could get out of Galus, so he's doing everything he has to do. He doesn't take a moment to say, because this is who I am, this is how I have to live. He says, oh shoot, there's a list, there's an objective, there's a competition, I can get out of Mitzrayim, therefore I do X, Y, and Z. As soon as the competition's over, he stops. It's like the kid who has to learn just for his bar mitzvah. As soon as the ceremony's over, he's gone. But if there's no siyum milmayla, and the change happens from within, a person says, why are you doing this? You say, what do you mean, why? I'm trying to be a better person. This is who I am. This is my potential I'm trying to reach. I want to do things in a better way. I can be a better self. Then when a person accomplishes this, it's consistent and internal because he changed himself. And so the Rebbe is saying that why Hashem took away the Shekhinah is because in order to bring about a Geula, not like the redemption from Mitzrayim, which was temporary. And immediately after that, we see how the Yidden fell in the desert, etc. But in order to bring about a Geula Hamitas Vashlema, that there should be a permanent change to the condition of reality, the Jewish people have to do it on their own in order to affect the permanent change within themselves. Okay, just for time, I'm going to skip to Ois Tes and Ois Ches that Rabbi just explained. So if that's the case, if it's so integral for the coming of Mashiach that you must have avodah mitzad atzma, you must work on it yourself, and you can't be artificially inspired or externally inspired, so then why did Yaakov, the question goes back, why did Yaakov want to tell it to them? And the Rebbe explains because Yaakov already was at that level, that he had already perfected himself, and he thought his children were as well, so he figured I could just give them an extra inspiration. If you're already internally perfected, then a little extra inspiration always helps. And Hashem said, no, your children are not where you're at, and therefore you can't do it. So let's go to Eis Tes on page 233. Afal Pias that Eibishter geführt azoi, as Yaakov soll nicht begala sein der Ketz lebanav, although the Hashem accomplished, and that Yaakov was not able to reveal this secret, and they had to come to it on their own, and we're still working on it. Aber von dem was bikish Yaakov begala saketz, since that Yaakov wanted to do this, Zayin dik amar kaval ratzene elyon, Canal Siv Gimel. Since Yaakov is a chariot, a direct conduit, an expression of what Hashem wants, is verstandig as their bikush legalis ketziyamim is euch demol gewen behasim suras melyon. That even Yaakov's desire, although ultimately we have to do it on our own, but even Yaakov's desire to give them an extra inspiration, this too was what Hashem wanted. Unachmer. Furthermore, since an endeavor, a request, something that it's a tzaddik wants to happen, it does not remain empty-handed, it doesn't remain barren. Definitely, just the very fact that Yaakov wanted to reveal the ketz, it had some kind of effect. If not the ultimate effect that he wanted, it still had some kind of effect. And furthermore, since we are told about it, it's put into Torah, which is from the word Hayra, guidance. Everything in Torah is not just to know history, but it's to tell us an instruction. So there's something we can learn from the fact that although we have to do it on our own, there's something we can learn from the fact that Yaakov wanted to give us an inspiration. We should have an inspiration from above. I'll just go through quickly. We find by Moshe Rabbeinu that he davened, he said, I want to cross over the Jordan, the Aaron, I want to see this land myself. And Chassidus explains that he wanted to give the Jewish people a level of understanding godliness in Re'iyah, in the clarity of a visual experience. And Hashem didn't let it. But still, weil seinen gewähren Reu nur zu beginnen Schmier, warte ich mal Schmaf, und deswegen sein Bekascher ifgetan, als bei Idem soll sein der Ingen Rie beginnen Smakef al-Kapan. Und bei Yechidus Skula euch beginnen Primis. Hashem didn't let, the Yidden were not ready for such a relationship with Torah and Torah wisdom. They could only have it in a way of hearing, not seeing. Nonetheless, it's written in Chassidus that Moshe Rabbeinu's effort and desire to do that also accomplished that at some level, maybe not in a very personal, intimate way, but in some larger way, in an abstract manner, certain things we could see with a clarity of Re'iyah, and there are tzaddikim that could actually experience what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give. On page 234, I'll say, Yeshlemer by Yaakov. You can say similar to Yaakov. Das was bikish legalis is a kates, hat aufgetan by Idin, as he sollen kennen der Griechen zu Gilead Ketz b'derech Makif. The fact that Yaakov even attempted to give us this inspiration and to reveal the end of days, it affected us. And it gave us the ability, at least in an abstract manner, that we could be in a Mashiach moment already. That we could be at the end of days already. Avodas Hashem in an oifen von cherus me'umas ha'olam me'etzahara. To be able to serve Hashem as a free person, an unexiled person, regarding the exile of the nations of the world where we find ourselves in and the Yetzer Hara. That although this itself requires tremendous power, because we're still in Gullus, so how do we have the power not to be influenced by the Gullus, to let the Gullus seep into us, and to live and do what we would do when Mashiach comes, to live a Torah life without this power? So the notion that Yaakov wanted to hasten the coming of Mashiach and give us the revelation of the Ketz affects us in this way, that perhaps not in the reality that we still get intimidated by Gullus sometimes, and we still see confusion, but at least in action we have the ability to live above Gullus. And by select holy individuals, even in an internal way, it can be very real in their life that Gullus doesn't exist to them. And this could have come from Yaakov's effort to bring the Geula sooner. Veshleimers, this was Kamak Deli Yisrael and Mechashik Ben Kitzim that have an interesting note because in some places you see in the Gemara very strong language not to try to figure out the end of days. Don't try to be Mechashiv Kitzim. Don't try to figure out when's that time. At the same time, you see some of the greatest Jewish leaders, and the Rabbi Sadia Goyen and the Rambam, the Rebbe brings down, who were Mechashiv Kitzim, who did give it at the end of the day. And the Rebbe says perhaps this is a similar effort from Avram Avinu, because from Yaakov Avinu, that in Yechidei Sgula, by select individuals, they have this ability that even if Mashiach doesn't come at that time, the very fact that they sought to be Megal Leketz gives us an increase in ability to live just a tefach hecher, a step above Galus. In any event, when they're this is a lesson for all Jews in all generations. That although we have to do it on our own, as es darf sein der Inyan from Bikish Legalitz Ketz Yom, at the same time, just like Yaakov wanted to reveal the Ketz, we also have to want to bring about the end of days. As a idar velin und beten, a Jew must desire, yearn for, and beseech. He must cry for, ask for. As a Lozayin Gilia Ketz, that it should be the end of days, the revelation of the end of days, Mashiach should come. Was das Gufa, Habakasho, and the Yizbayim Nisbazeh, Gita Siyu of Ider Avin Abayis Hashem. This alone, the requesting and the notion and the connection to keep demanding Mashiach should come, gives us an inspiration and an effort, a boost in our own service in Abayis Hashem. The Rebbe says, practical, just look around you and you'll see. As a mezak ta'idin, as at kumt Mashiach, when you see a Jew, and you tell a Jew that Mashiach's coming any moment, vi want Mashiach now, we want Mashiach right away, is this payol zirus v'isafan Abayis Hashem. This creates a intensified and a expedited, enhanced form of serving Hashem. As it soll nicht sein kein Inyan von Shema Yigrim, that there should not allow a sin get in the way, was chas v'shalom verhalten b'yis Mashiach, that would chas v'shalom withhold b'yis Mashiach. My father does a lot of miftzah mezuzah in Crown Heights. When the Rebbe came out with the miftzah of getting Jews to put up mezuzah, they opened the office in Crown Heights as well, the miftzah mezuzah office. It was in Zalman Deitchal Shalom's basement. And a Nash in Crown Heights, members of the Crown Heights community, would go, they'd have like a night of the week, and they would go to, people would call from around New York, half hour, 45 minutes away from Brooklyn, for an appointment for a rabbi to come put up a mezuzah, check a mezuzah, etc. And Anash would go and do this. And my father used to do this every week. I remember going many times as a child, going with him to these houses. And in Nun Aleph, Nun Beis, and maybe he still did it later until today, but I remember him telling us stories then, when the Rebbe was really kochen sich in Mashiach, and this notion that he nezeh, he would say he would come to somebody's house, an Israeli or someone in Queens, and they called only because they wanted to put up a mezuzah on the front door. And my father would come and say, listen, it's a Jewish house, you have to have a mezuzah on every door. And so, but a mezuzah on every door is expensive. And say, nah, speak bishvili, it's enough for me, the front door. And my father would say, you know the Rebbe? And he said, Betach, of course I know the Rebbe. He says, the Rebbe said Mashiach's coming any moment. Imagine Mashiach comes to your block in Queens, he comes to your house, and you only have a mezuzah on the front door, and the rest of your house has no mezuzah. In Kacha, if that's the situation, all right, let's put up mezuzah on the whole house. If Mashiach's going to walk into my house, okay, we got to have a mezuzah on the whole house. But this is the notion that when you tell somebody the bikush legalas aketz, although you have to have avodah b'tzad atzmai, but the bikush is often an inspiration and a boost. In our days we have an additional advantage. The Torah says that kalu kala kitzim ve'ein adavar talal b'tshuva. Now the Torah tells us that all those scheduled deadlines already came and passed. And it only depends on our tshuva, on our effort. The Gemara Zok Pshitis is the ketz is showing from lying da. The Gemara already said that the ketz is already here. And after our the shaita chada, we only have to have that in one moment, their care, that we should turn ourselves around from tshuva. We should turn ourselves around with tshuva to refocus our lives in one moment, just shift, begin a new path. And this will bring Miyad Hein Negal. Mashiach comes right away. Miyad Mamish now by Goldi Dan. To bring it back to, this is a sikha that Rebbe says in Parashat Vayechi about Yaakov Avinu, but I think the lesson is clear. And to talk about the struggles I have and why I find guidance in this. That first, the coming of Mashiach felt so imminent and so real. And then a Gimel Tammuz happens and you think, what happened? What happened to the plan? And what's the message? What's the call? The order of the day of Gimel Tammuz? One realizes when reading such a sikha that the Rebbe gave us tremendous guidance for right now. And to think that chas v'shalom, the plan got derailed after Gimel Tammuz, the plan became more difficult. But according to you understand the Sikha, you're right on track. You're right on track to Mashiach. We're closer to Mashiach's coming. That you have to have a moment when Jewish people could do it on their own. It has to be Yigiyas Atzma, and the inspiration is not right in front of their face. And again, I once asked my father, I was telling you that the older Chassidim, like in his generation, should share the answers they got from the Rebbe. And they should make it readily available, because the young Chassidim, we don't know, we don't have this access, you have to talk about it all the time. And my father told me, he said, you should know something, you have much more access to the Rebbe's guidance and the Rebbe's teachings than we ever had. Today, everything's printed, it's recorded, it's on video, it's in different languages. Who had all those publications back then? Those things weren't publicized. You heard of Fabrengen, you didn't get it, you missed it, you had to move on. He said, today you have everything, volumes and volumes of Igris, of Sichas. He said, the only difference is that then, you walked into 770, whether you liked it or not, it came at you. Today, if you wanted Rebbe in your life, or you wanted Rebbe's instruction, you have to go and look for it. Nobody's going to stop you. You're not going to get a look from the Rebbe when you went to 770. You're going to have to open books. So, but this we see is right on track with the Rebbe saying in the Sikha, that there has to be an ability of B'koyach Atzmai, a place of Helem v'Hester, where we have to do it on our own. At the same time, there has to be Bikish Yaakov V'Galas HaKetz, and we need to know that in the background, the Rebbe is with us at every step of the way, and the Rebbe is motivating us, and the Rebbe gave us the inspiration and the ability to get through these dark moments. And if we look for a moment, is there copies on this as well?
Yes, yes. It's
just want to look,
9.
page 9, I just want to look from the beginning of the first Fabrengen of the Rebbe, Tafshin Alf, when he accepted the Siyas, and the last Maimer that the Rebbe gave out. And of course, when we read it then, I wasn't there, but people who read it then, or when we learned the Maimer then, you didn't want to see it in such a way. But in hindsight, and now that the condition is such, that although it could have been Bikish Yaakov V'Galas HaKetz, on the one hand it could have happened right away, it was also Ratzon HaShechina. On the other hand, there was an ability that it would have to go through Helem v'Hester. Then we wanted it to happen right away. Today we see the realities that Hashem wanted to go through Helem v'Hester, but so when you look at the Rebbe's Sichos now, you realize that throughout the Nesiyas, the Rebbe was telling us about such a time. If we look at Ois Yud Beis of the first Fabrengen Tafshin Yud Aleph,
Bottom of page 9.
the Rebbe says, Ke'eis hakshiva Yehudim, listen up Jews. Bichlal b'chavad hoisa tfiya shetia avaydasei shel kol echad ve'echad ba'atzmai. In general, in Chabad, there was always the demand that people need to do things and accomplish on their own. V'loy li'istamech al Rabbi, and not to rely on the Rabbi and that they'll take care of things. Is there a hefresh ben shittas Poland and shittas Chabad? This was a big difference between the Chassidus of Poland, Polish Chassidus, and the Chassidus of Chabad. Shittas Poland, even tzaddik bebanasi yichya al tichli yichya el yichaya. The shit of Poland was based on the pasuk that a tzaddik lives with faith. Not to read that a tzaddik lives with faith, that a tzaddik enlivens with faith. That if you have faith in the tzaddik will take care of everything. Aval anu Chabad, the Rebbe said, tzrichim lavoid kulanu batzmeinu. In Chabad, you got to work on your own. With our own bodily organs and limbs, on our own spiritual organs and limbs. Because everything comes from heaven, except the fear of heaven. And the Rebbe tells us the other side of Bikish Yaakov. I'm not removing myself. It's not that I'm not going to offer you support and help. Chas v'shalom. Because we're going to help. Since everything comes from heaven except the fear of heaven. If we don't do it on our own, and the Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe used to say, don't convince yourselves birds in the attic, don't convince yourself dreams, fantasies, you're flying high. On our own, we can't rely that the Rebbe is going to transform me. I'm going to come to the Rebbe, and it's a good. I'm going to come to Yechidus of Fabrengen, and the Rebbe is going to do it for me. He's going to take care of it. We on our own need to get to business. We need to roll up our sleeves. We have to do it on our own. Just for the sake of time, the Rebbe continues in Ois Yud Gimel, a similar thing. But I want to go to the last mimer that the Rebbe gave out on Purim Katan and Tafshin. What? Finish it? Okay. Okay, fine. So from Avodah Pratis, the Rebbe brings another example to the Avodah Klalis of creating a Mishkan. To make a home for God in the world, which is the ultimate purpose of Mashiach, Moshe could have done it himself. You think Moshe, who defied Pharaoh, who took us through the sea, who brought us the Torah, he couldn't build a small home for God? David HaMelech could have built the whole Beis HaMikdash himself. The desire was to let us, that it should be a grassroots effort, that the individual, the layman should be able to do this. Another thing we see with regard to Mashiach, when the Frierdiker Rebbe commissioned the writing of a Torah with which to greet Mashiach, the Frierdiker Rebbe said himself, I don't want to do it myself. I could do it myself, but I don't want to. Because I want everyone to participate. Why? To give all the Jewish people the merit to be able to do this as our own effort. Upshita. And therefore it is simple. In making the world a dira for the Eibishter, we all must participate. Every person has to do on their own to do his mission. Just a few things, little fun, finishing touches. When we finish them, will be fulfilled the prophecy, the promise for Allah Moshiach. This al Gedusha, that the evil of the world which can't be remedied will be destroyed, the 3 klippos atmeis, and the neutrality of the world, which is often used in a perverted way, in a distorted way, will be elevated, used for Gedusha. The tushlim tachas abriya, and this will complete the goal of creation. And specifically, it's not going to happen just that Moshe Rabbeinu, a Rebbe, is going to do it on its own, but specifically it's given over to each and every one of us to do. And now I want to look at the last ois of this mimer, the last mimer that Rebbe was Magia, and gave to every single person who came by to get it. Obviously, it's a calling. It's almost like a spiritual, I don't know if it's tzavah, but it's almost like a spiritual directive for today's times. And the whole mimer, it discusses the internalization, that the change, not being on a diet, but changing the diet. This is the theme of the mimer, not being superficially, not having Mesiras Nefesh, because it's not feeling Jewish, because there's anti-Semitism, which always awakes Jews. And not feeling Jewish because there's an amazing spiritual leader, a Moshe Rabbeinu. But the Rebbe speaks about expressing the notion of Azoya Nisht Andrish, a Mesiras Nefesh, a feeling of oneness and yearning for Hashem, just because that becomes our natural state of being. There's no problems and there's no extra inspiration. It's just normal day-to-day life. And the Rebbe concludes, V'hine apirush b'pashtus. The explanation simply, that Moshe Rabbeinu has to command the Jewish people. But the Jewish people have to bring something back to Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe creates the inspiration, the command, but the Jewish people do it, they bring it back to Moshe. And so that's the simple meaning that Moshe Rabbeinu says, bring me oil, and they bring it. But from here we can understand that on a more internal, in a more spiritual way, in our own avodah, that when the Moshe of a generation, when Moshe Rabbeinu connects the Jewish people to Hashem, it's in a way that he gives them the energy to do it on their own. That when Moshe Rabbeinu connects Jewish people with the Eibishter, it's not just that in a moment Moshe Rabbeinu is able to captivate the people, but he gives them enough inspiration that later, when Moshe Rabbeinu is not doing it, they have the energy and the power to do it on their own. Similarly, when it comes to the Moshe of our generation, when it comes to the Rebbe, that when he comes to arouse and awaken the emunah that we each have, and like I said before, perhaps specifically in this emunah of becoming Mashiach, that we felt it so real, and that Rebbe aroused this emunah within us, he ba'oifed it's in a way, that Rebbe gives us the ability to do this in a way, that even at a later time, when the Rebbe is not doing it begali, they'll be able to do their work on their own. Until it becomes a consistent light, as we mentioned in the Sikha, the notion of consistency, in which there's no fluctuation, even in our daily behavior, not only in our etzem and neshama, which always remains consistently connected to Hashem, but even in our daily behavior, we're behaving. We become such. The Rebbe gave us a power that on our own we could reach a level that we reach this form of transformation. And through this type of work, where there's a transformation that happens in ourselves, we merit speedily the geula when the godliness will be revealed from the mata as well, from Gashmis, not just from God coming down on Mount Sinai, Hashem coming down on Har Sinai, and not just a Moshe Rabbeinu or Rebbe inspiring things, but even in the simple day-to-day life of a simple person, you see Elikus, which will bring back the original translation of the pasuk, that we will bring oil to light the menorah, which, in other words, to answer my second question, the first question of, what do? You were so inspired, it doesn't happen. Again, you have to keep on reading this or things like this to remind myself we're still right on track. It's dark and it's difficult, but this is part of the plan. And the calling for me, at least for Gimel Tammuz, when I read such a thing, what's the order of the day? We got to do it. The order of the day is that the Rebbe gave us a job, and for 7 generations of Chassidim, they always turn to the Rebbe, help. And we still do, because Bikush Yaakov L'Galas HaKetz is an inspiration coming from behind. But it's time the Chassidim, we have to get to the forefront and roll up our sleeves, create a transformation that people should be able to see, even a situation where there's not a farbringen happening every Shabbos, and a situation where people are going for 21 years of Gimel Tammuz, it shouldn't happen. But the Chassidim and the larger world through Chassidim has already reached this infatuation and this level of consistent feeling of Mashiach, that it's not a time for Mashiach to come.
Thank you, Rabbi Chein. Tonight, Rabbi Chein is going to continue with the Farbringen after Mayev here, for men. 9 o'clock, right after Mayev. Thank everyone. If everyone could help us.
First of all.
$100,000. Okay, and give something to those who want to be mishtatev.